The distress signal came at the worst possible time. It was late in the night cycle when the warning lights started flashing across the communication screens of station. The station floated in the deep black of space, far from any planet, serving as the ears and eyes of the Galactic Union. Commander Hayes was sleeping when her personal alarm woke her up. She jumped out of bed and ran to the command center without even putting on her full uniform. When she arrived, her crew was already working hard to understand what was happening. "What do we have?" asked as she walked to the main screen. Her communications officer, a young alien named Das, looked up with worry in his large eyes. Das was a species known for their gentle nature and peaceful ways. His blue skin had turned pale, which meant he was very scared. "Commander, we received a Priority 1 distress call. It is a colony transport ship called the Gentle Dawn. They are carrying 12,000 refugees to a new home world." Felt her stomach drop. 12,000 people, families, children. What happened to them? Das pressed some buttons and the main screen changed to show a map of space. A small dot was blinking in the outer rim, the most dangerous part of the galaxy. They were attacked by raiders. 5 ships. The Gentle Dawn has no weapons. Their shields are failing. Their engines are dead. The had heard many terrible stories about them. They were raiders and killers who attacked weak ships and took everything valuable. They did not show mercy. They did not take prisoners unless they could sell them as slaves. "How long until they reach them?" asked. 47 minutes, Commander." 47 minutes. That was all the time those 12,000 people had left to live. Took a deep breath and turned to her team. "Start sending priority requests to every Union member fleet within range. Tell them this is an emergency. Tell them lives are at stake." Her crew worked fast. Messages went out across space to every ship and every fleet that might be close enough to help. Watched the screen and waited. She prayed that someone would answer. The first response came from the fleet. They were the same species as the refugees, so surely they would come to save their own people. But the message made his heart sink. "We are deeply sorry. Our nearest ships are 3 cycles away. We cannot arrive in time. We will send prayers for the souls of our brothers and sisters." Closed her eyes for a moment. 3 cycles was far too long. By then, everyone on that transport would be dead. The next response came from the collective. They were a powerful species with many warships. They had the strength to fight the. "We do not engage with vessels. The risk to our crews is too high. We cannot help. We suggest you contact another fleet." Wanted to scream. The risk was too high. What about the risk to those innocent people on the transport? But she kept her anger inside and waited for more responses. The Meridian Assembly answered next. They were known as wise and fair beings. Surely they would understand the need for action. "We extend our deepest sympathies to the victims of this terrible attack. However, our defense rules do not allow us to get involved in conflicts in the outer rim. We hope the situation resolves peacefully." Peacefully? There was nothing peaceful about what they would do to those refugees. Knew exactly what would happen. The raiders would board the transport. They would take anything valuable. Then they would kill anyone who could not be sold. The children might be taken as slaves. The old and the sick would be thrown into space. More responses came in. The Dominion said no. The Free Worlds Council said no. The Empire did not even bother to respond. Looked at the timer on the screen. 39 minutes left. 39 minutes and not one ship was coming to help. She walked to the window and stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there, 12,000 people were huddled together in fear, waiting to die. Mothers were holding their children. Fathers were trying to be brave. Old people were saying their final prayers. And the mighty Galactic Union, with all its fleets and all its power, was doing nothing. "Commander," Das spoke softly behind her. "What is it?" Did not turn around. She did not want her crew to see the tears forming in her eyes. "There is one more fleet in range." Turned slowly. "Which one?" Das hesitated. His hands were shaking slightly as he checked his screen. "The Terran Confederation. They have a ship called the USS Valor and her escort group. They are doing training exercises in the nearby Kappa sector." The room became very quiet. Everyone stopped what they were doing and looked at Das, then at Commander. The Terrans, the humans, knew about them. Everyone in the galaxy knew about them. They came from a planet called Earth, a world so dangerous that most species could not survive there for even one day. The gravity was crushing. The atmosphere was poisonous to many beings. The planet was filled with predators and disasters, storms that destroyed cities, mountains that spat fire, oceans that could swallow entire fleets. And the humans had not just survived there, they had thrived. They had become the dominant species on their deadly world. Evolution had made them into something terrifying. They could run for hours without stopping. They could heal from injuries that would kill other beings. They ate the flesh of other animals. They had forward-facing eyes like predators. The Terrans had only joined the Galactic Union 5 years ago. Most species still kept their distance from them. There were stories about what humans did in battle, stories about their rage and their violence, stories about how they never gave up, never surrendered, never stopped fighting until their enemies were destroyed. "They are a warship fleet," one of the officers whispered. "The Valor is a heavy cruiser. It was built for killing, not for rescue." Understood the fear in the room. Asking the humans for help felt like asking a wild animal to save you from wolves. Yes, they might kill the wolves, but what would they do after that? She looked at the timer again. 36 minutes. In 36 minutes, 12,000 people would start dying. The would not come. The would not come. The Meridians would not come. No one was coming. Except maybe the... Walked back to her command chair and sat down. Her hands were steady even though her heart was racing. She had made her decision. "Das, open a channel to the Terran vessel." Das looked at her with wide eyes. "Commander, are you sure? The humans are. They are not like us. They are dangerous." "So are the," said firmly. "And right now, dangerous might be exactly what we need. Open the channel." Das nodded and his fingers moved across the controls. A moment later, the connection was established. Took a deep breath and spoke. "Terran vessel USS Valor, this is Commander Hayes of Union Station. We have a Priority 1 distress call. A transport ship carrying 12,000 refugees is under attack by raiders. All other Union fleets have refused to help. You are the only ship in range. Please respond." She released the transmission button and waited. The seconds felt like hours. The static hissed softly through the speakers. And then through the noise of space, a human voice answered. "Station, this is the USS Valor. We hear you. Tell us everything." Captain Cole stood on the bridge of the USS Valor with his arms crossed over his chest. He was a tall man with gray hair at his temples and eyes that had seen too many battles. The ship around him hummed with power as his crew went through their training exercises. The Valor was a heavy cruiser, one of the largest warships in the Terran Confederation fleet. She was not beautiful like the sleek ships of other species. She was built for one purpose only: to fight and to win. Her hull was thick armor-plated. Her weapons could tear through enemy shields like paper. Her engines could push her faster than anything her size had a right to move. Had commanded the Valor for 3 years. He knew every sound she made, every vibration in her deck plates. She was his home, and her crew was his family. His executive officer, commander, walked up to him with a tablet in her hands. Was a woman in her late 30s with short brown hair and sharp eyes. She had served with for almost a decade. He trusted her more than anyone else in the galaxy. "Captain, we just received an emergency transmission from Union Station." Took the tablet and read the information on the screen. His face did not change as he absorbed the details. 12,000 refugees, raiders, no help coming. "How long until they reach the transport?" he asked quietly. 39 minutes, sir, maybe less." Looked at the map on the tablet. The distance was huge. The Valor would have to push her engines beyond safe limits to get there in time, and even if they did arrive, they would be facing 5 enemy ships alone. He handed the tablet back to and turned to his tactical officer. "Lieutenant Park, bring up everything we have on hunter-killer ships." Lieutenant James Park was a young officer with quick hands and a quicker mind. He had graduated at the top of his class at the Naval Academy. His fingers danced across his console, and the main screen changed to show the enemy ships. 5 hunter-killers, sir. They are smaller than us but very fast. They usually attack in groups and overwhelm their targets with numbers. Standard military thinking says we would need at least 3 cruisers to fight them safely." Studied the images on the screen. The ships looked like metal insects with too many sharp edges. They were built to be scary, designed to make victims afraid before the first shot was even fired. "What about our escort ships?" asked. "The Carson and the Mills are both destroyers," Park answered. "They are good ships but not built for this kind of fight. If we bring them, we risk losing them." nodded slowly. He walked to the front of the bridge and looked out at the stars through the main window. Somewhere out there, 12,000 people were waiting to die. Children were crying. Parents were trying to stay calm. Old people were making peace with their gods. And every other species in the galaxy had decided that saving them was too dangerous. Chief Reeves spoke into the ship intercom. "How fast can you get us to the outer rim?" The voice of Chief Engineer Tony Reeves came back through the speakers. Tony was an older man who had spent his whole life working on starship engines. He knew the Valor systems better than anyone. "Captain, if we push the engines to maximum power, we can be there in 32 minutes. But I have to warn you, sir. Running that hot will burn through our coolant reserves. We might not have enough to make it back home." "Understood, Chief. Do it anyway." There was a pause. Then Tony's voice came back steady and calm. "Yes, sir. Pushing engines to maximum now." The deck plates vibrated as the Valor's engines roared to life with new power. The ship jumped forward like a runner breaking from the starting line. Stepped closer to and spoke in a low voice. "Command did not authorize this mission. They have never attacked any human ships. Technically, this is not our fight." Turned to look at her. A ship full of children and families is about to be torn apart by raiders. Everyone in the galaxy is too afraid to help. You think I am going to sit here and do nothing? I think we could get in a lot of trouble for this. Then we will get in trouble. Put his hand on shoulder. We are humans, we are. The galaxy thinks we are monsters. Maybe it is time to show them what kind of monsters we really are. Looked into his eyes for a long moment, then she smiled. "I was hoping you would say that. I will get the crew ready for battle." She turned and walked to her station. Watched her go, feeling proud of the woman she had become. Then he pressed the button for the ship-wide communication system. "All hands, this is the captain speaking." Throughout the Valor, every crew member stopped what they were doing to listen. In the engine room, Tony Reeves wiped oil from his hands. In the medical bay, Dr. Amy looked up from her equipment checks. In the weapons rooms, gunners stood at attention by their stations. "We have received a distress call. A transport ship carrying 12,000 innocent people is under attack. They are civilians, refugees, families looking for a new home. And right now, 5 raider ships are closing in to kill them all." Paused to let his words sink in. Every other species in the Galactic Union has refused to help. The cannot arrive in time. The say it is too dangerous. The Meridians say it is not their problem. No one is coming to save those people. He took a deep breath. "No one except us." In the corridors of the Valor, crew members looked at each other. Some were scared, some were excited, but all of them were listening. "I am not going to lie to you. This mission is dangerous. We will be outnumbered. We will be pushing our ship beyond safe limits. Some of us might not come back. But those people on that transport have no one else. No other ship in this galaxy is willing to stand between them and death." Gripped the railing in front of him. "Back on Earth, our ancestors had a saying. When someone was in trouble, when someone needed help, when someone was about to give up hope, they would say, 'The cavalry is coming.' It meant that help was on the way. It meant that you were not alone. It meant that someone cared enough to risk everything to save you." He smiled grimly. "Today, we are the cavalry. We are going to save those people, and we are going to make those raiders wish they had never been born. Battle stations, everyone. We arrive in 32 minutes, and God help anyone who gets in our way." Release the communication button. All around the ship, alarms began to sound as the crew rushed to their positions. Weapons were powered up. Shields were activated. Pilots climbed into their fighter craft. "Return to stand beside. The crew is ready, Captain. Weapons are hot. Shields are at full power." Good sat down in his command chair and strapped himself in. "Lieutenant Park, what is our best approach vector?" "If we come in from above the engagement zone, we can hit them before they know we are there," Park answered. "They will be focused on the transport. They will not expect anyone to come charging at them." "Because no one else was stupid enough to try," said with a dry smile. "Stupid or brave," replied. "Sometimes it is hard to tell the difference." The Valor shot through space like a bullet fired from a gun. Her engines burned white hot as Chief Reeves pushed them harder than they were ever designed to go. In the engine room, warning lights were flashing everywhere. But Tony and his team kept working, kept adjusting, kept the ship flying. On the bridge, watched the countdown timer. 30 minutes, 25, 20. Somewhere ahead of them, 12,000 people were praying for a miracle. They did not know that a Terran warship was coming. They did not know that they had answered their call. They were about to find out. Captain Park said suddenly, "I am picking up the ships on sensors. They are surrounding the transport. They have not started boarding yet, but they are about to." Leaned forward in his chair. "How long until we arrive?" 7 minutes. 7 minutes. 7 minutes until the USS Valor showed the galaxy what humans were really made of. "Open a channel to the," ordered. "Let them know we are coming." Looked at him with surprise. "Sir, you want to warn them." Smiled, and there was something dangerous in that smile. Something that reminded everyone on the bridge that humans were predators, born and raised on a world that killed the weak. "I want to give them a chance to run," he said. "And when they do not take it, I want them to know exactly who destroyed them." The channel opened, spoke clearly and calmly. "Attention vessels. This is Captain Cole of the USS Valor, Terran Confederation Navy. You will withdraw from that transport immediately, or you will be destroyed. You have 30 seconds to comply." He sat back and waited. The clock was ticking. On the bridge of the Gentle Dawn, Captain had already accepted that he was going to die. The old stood at his command post with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the ships circle his wounded vessel like hungry animals waiting for their meal. The transport had no weapons. Her shields were failing. The engines were dead, destroyed in the first attack. 12,000 of his people huddled in the passenger areas below, waiting for the end. Had sent messages to everyone he could think of, the fleet, the Union Emergency Services, even the Galactic Council itself. The answers had all been the same. No one was coming. No one could help. They were alone. He had spent the last hour walking through the passenger areas, trying to comfort his people. Mothers held their children close. Fathers stood in front of their families, ready to fight with their bare hands even though they knew it was hopeless. The elderly sat in quiet groups, singing the old songs of their home world. Now was back on the bridge, watching the ships prepare to board. His communications officer, a young female named, was crying softly at her station. "Captain," said his sensor operator, "they are extending their boarding tubes. They will breach our hull in approximately 3 minutes." Nodded slowly. 3 minutes. That was all the time they had left. He was about to give the order to seal the bridge doors when suddenly sat up straight. Her eyes went wide, and she started pressing buttons on her console frantically. "Captain, a ship just dropped out of hyperspace." Hope flickered in his heart for a brief moment. "Is it?" Stared at her screen with a confused expression. "No, sir. I do not recognize the design. It is very large, and it is moving extremely fast. Faster than anything that size should be able to move." Walked to the sensor station and looked at the screen. The ship that appeared there was unlike anything he had ever seen. It was dark gray, almost black, with sharp angles and hard edges. There was nothing beautiful about it, nothing elegant. It looked like it had been built by people who did not care about style, only about function. And that function was clearly war. The vessel was covered in weapons. Missile tubes lined its sides. Gun turrets dotted its hull like warts on a frog. Its forward section was reinforced with extra armor, designed to punch through enemy formations. "What species is that?" asked. Checked her database, and her blue face went even paler. "It is a Terran ship, Captain. Human. That is the USS Valor, a heavy cruiser of the Terran Confederation Navy." The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew about the Terrans, the species that had evolved on a planet so deadly that it made hardened warriors look like children. There were stories about what humans did in battle, stories that made parents check under their children's beds at night. On the side, the 500 killer ships had stopped their approach to the transport. They were turning to face the new arrival, trying to understand what was happening. Then a voice came through the communication system. It was calm and clear, speaking in perfect universal trade language. "Attention vessels. This is Captain Cole of the USS Valor, Terran Confederation Navy. You will withdraw from that transport immediately, or you will be destroyed. You have 30 seconds to comply." Felt his heart beating faster. The humans had come. They had answered the call that no one else would answer. The pack leader responded with a harsh, laughing voice. "One ship. You bring one ship against 5. Terran, you must be mad. Perhaps we will take your vessel too after we are done with these refugees." There was a pause. Then the human voice came back, and this time there was something cold in it, Something dangerous. 25 seconds. The opened fire. Missiles streaked across space toward the USS Valor. Plasma bolts followed close behind. The 500 killers attacked together, pouring everything they had at the single human ship. What happened next would be talked about in every corner of the galaxy for years to come. The Valor did not dodge. She did not try to run. She charged straight into the attack. Her point defense systems came alive like a swarm of angry insects. Lasers and guns fired in every direction, cutting down the incoming missiles before they could hit. 2 missiles exploded in the first second. 4 more were destroyed in the next. The plasma bolts that got through splashed harmlessly against the Valor's shields. On the bridge of the transport, watched with his mouth hanging open. He had never seen anything fight like this. The human ship moved like a predator, fast and deadly and completely without fear. "Firing solution locked," a voice said over the open channel. It was one of the human officers, speaking calmly as if this was just another training exercise. Missiles away. The Valor returned fire. Her missiles were different from anything they had faced before. They were faster, smarter, and packed with enough explosives to crack a small moon. The first ship exploded before its crew even understood what had hit them. One moment they were there, the next they were an expanding cloud of metal and fire. "First target down," the human officer reported, acquiring second target. The remaining 4 ships scattered. Their pack formation broke apart as each captain tried to find a way to escape or fight back. But the Valor was already among them, turning with impossible speed for a ship her size. Another volley of missiles, another ship torn apart. Second target destroyed, third target disabled, fourth is trying to retreat. The 4th ship had turned and was running at maximum speed, abandoning its pack mates in a desperate attempt to survive. It did not get far. "Do not let them escape," Captain Cole's voice was hard as iron. "No one runs back to tell their friends that attacking civilians is acceptable." The Valor's gun spoke one more time. The fleeing ship shuddered and came apart at the seams. The 5th and final hunter-killer tried a different approach. Its captain must have decided that if he was going to die, he would take the Terran ship with him. He turned and flew straight at the Valor, weapons firing continuously. Some of those shots got through. The Valor's hull groaned as armor plates buckled. Fire broke out in one of the lower sections. Warning alarms screamed through the ship. But the Valor kept coming. The 2 ships passed within meters of each other. At that range, the Valor's guns could not miss. The final ship was torn to pieces by point-blank fire. And then it was over. 4 minutes. The entire battle had lasted 4 minutes. 500 killers, feared raiders who had terrorized the Outer Rim for decades, had been reduced to floating wreckage. On the bridge of the Gentle Dawn, no one moved. No one spoke. They simply stared at their screens, trying to understand what they had just witnessed. Was the first to find her voice. "Captain, the ships are all destroyed, all 5 of them, the Terran ship. It killed them all." Swallowed hard, he should feel relieved. He should feel grateful, but part of him felt something else entirely. Part of him felt afraid. If the humans could do that to 5 warships in 4 minutes, what could they do to a defenseless transport? The communication system crackled and Captain Cole's voice returned. This time, the coldness was gone. The voice sounded tired but kind. "Transport Gentle Dawn, this is the USS Valor. The threat has been eliminated. We are moving to assist with repairs and provide medical support. Please stand by." Looked around his bridge at his crew. They were all staring at him, waiting for him to respond. He took a deep breath and pressed the communication button. "USS Valor, this is Captain of the Gentle Dawn. We do not know how to thank you. You came when no one else would. You saved our lives." There was a pause. Then a different voice came through, a female voice. "Captain, this is Commander. We are preparing emergency teams now. What are your most urgent needs?" "We have wounded," replied. "Many wounded from the first attack. Our medical supplies are limited." "We are sending medical teams immediately. Our doctor is one of the best. She will take care of your people." Felt tears forming in his eyes. He had expected to die today. He had expected his 12,000 passengers to die. Instead, a ship full of had crossed the stars to save them. "Commander," he said softly, "I must ask, why? Your species barely knows us. You had no reason to risk your ship and your crew. Why did you come?" The answer came not from Commander, but from Captain Cole himself. Because you needed help, Captain, and we were close enough to give it. In our culture, that is all the reason we need. Closed his eyes and let the tears fall freely. The monsters had come to save them, and they were not monsters at all. The USS Valor pulled up alongside the damaged transport ship like a protective guardian. Her hull was scorched and torn from the battle. Black marks covered her armor where weapons had struck. Smoke leaked from several sections, but she was still flying, still fighting, still ready to help. Commander led the first rescue team to the gentle dawn. She brought 10 crew members with her, carrying medical supplies, repair equipment, and emergency food and water. They wore their standard uniforms, not armor, had insisted on this. She did not want the refugees to see soldiers. She wanted them to see helpers. When the airlock opened and stepped onto the transport, she found herself facing a crowd of at least 200. They were packed into the corridor, staring at her with huge, frightened eyes. They were a beautiful species. They had soft blue skin and large dark eyes. Their bodies were thin and delicate, built for a world with low gravity and gentle weather. Everything about them seemed fragile compared to a human. And now they were looking at like she was a monster from their worst nightmares. She understood. To them she was a creature from a planet where the very air could kill and the ground itself tried to crush visitors. Her body was dense with muscle and bone. Her eyes faced forward like a predator. Her teeth were designed for tearing meat. Slowly reached up and removed her helmet. Her brown hair was messy and her face was covered in sweat, but she smiled as warmly as she could. "Hi," she said simply. "We are here to help. Is anyone injured?" No one moved. No one spoke. The fear in the corridor was so thick could almost taste it. Then something pushed through the crowd. It was a small child, a girl who could not have been more than 5 or 6 years old. She was holding a stuffed toy that looked like it had been burned in the attack. One of its arms was missing, and its fur was black with soot. The child walked right up to and stopped. She looked up at the human with those big dark eyes. "Are you going to hurt us?" the little girl asked. Felt her heart break. She crouched down so she was at the child's level. "No, sweetheart, we are not going to hurt you. We came to help. See." She pointed to the supplies her team was carrying. "We brought medicine and food and tools to fix your ship." The child looked at the supplies, then back at. Then, without warning, she raised her arms. Understood, she had nieces back on Earth. She knew what that gesture meant. She picked up the little girl and held her gently. The child wrapped her thin arms around her neck and buried her face in her shoulder, could feel her trembling. "It is okay," whispered. "You are safe now, I promise." Behind the child, the crowd of slowly began to relax. If a human would hold a child so gently, perhaps they were not monsters after all. Captain pushed through the crowd and approached. His old face was lined with worry and exhaustion, but there was also hope in his eyes now. "Commander," he said, "thank you for coming. We have many wounded in the lower decks. Some are very serious." "Show me," said, still holding the child. "Doctor and her team are right behind me." As if on cue, Dr. Amy stepped through the airlock with her medical team. Amy was a short woman with red hair and freckles. She looked young, almost too young to be a chief medical officer, but her eyes were sharp and her hands were steady. She had trained for this her whole life. "Where are the patients?" Amy asked immediately. She did not wait for introductions or explanations. There was work to do. Led them through the transport to the main cargo bay, which had been converted into an emergency hospital. What saw there made her stomach turn. Hundreds of lay on makeshift beds and blankets spread across the floor. Some had burns from fire. Others had cuts and broken bones from flying debris. A few were simply lying still, barely breathing, their blue skin pale and cold. Amy took one look at the scene and started giving orders. "Set up triage stations here, here, and here. Priority patients are anyone with internal bleeding or severe burns. Johnson, start an IV line on that patient. Martinez, I need wound cleaning supplies now." Her team moved like a well-oiled machine. Within minutes, they were treating patients, bandaging wounds, and setting up equipment they had brought from the Valor. Gently set down the little girl, who ran back to find her parents. Then she found one of the nurses and asked what else was needed. "Our water recycling system is damaged," the nurse said. "We have been rationing water for the past day. The children are getting dehydrated." Touched her communicator. "Lieutenant Park, we need water tanks transported to the Gentle Dawn immediately, and send the damage control teams. Their water recyclers are down." Meanwhile, on the Valor, Captain Cole was walking through his own damaged ship. The battle with the had cost them dearly. 3 crew members had been injured when a section of the hull breached. The engines were running hot, barely holding together. Chief Reeves was working miracles just to keep them flying, but did not care about any of that right now. He was focused on the transport and its passengers. He crossed over to the gentle Dawn himself, wanting to see the situation with his own eyes. As he walked through the corridors, refugees stopped and stared at him. He was taller than most of his crew, with broad shoulders and hands that looked like they could crush stone. But he smiled at everyone he passed. He stopped to help an elderly who had dropped her bag. He picked up a child's toy and returned it to its owner. He asked a group of young males if they needed anything. Everywhere he went, fear slowly turned into confusion, and confusion slowly turned into wonder. These were the monsters from the poison planet. These people who held children and helped old women and asked if everyone was okay. In the cargo bay hospital, found doctor working on a male with serious burns. The patient was screaming in pain as Amy cleaned his wounds. "How bad is it?" asked quietly. "Bad," Amy replied without looking up. "But I have seen worse. He will live. They all will if I have anything to say about it." Nodded and moved on. He found Captain standing near the entrance, watching the human medical team's work. "Captain," said. The old turned to face him. For a long moment, the 2 captains simply looked at each other. "Your people work fast," finally said, "and they work hard. I did not expect that." "What did you expect?" Hesitated. "I am ashamed to say it, but I expected soldiers, warriors, fighters who would demand payment for their service or who would try to take advantage of our weakness." Nodded slowly. He understood. "Captain, let me tell you something about humans. Yes, we are from a dangerous world. Yes, we know how to fight. We had to learn how to fight just to survive, but that is not what makes us human." "Then what does?" Looked around the cargo bay at his crew members treating patients, fixing equipment, handing out water and food. "We believe that the strong should protect the weak. We believe that when someone needs help, you help them, not because they can pay you, not because it is easy, but because it is the right thing to do." His eyes filled with tears. "I was told that we're dangerous, that you were violent and unpredictable, that we should fear you." "You were told the truth," said gently. "We are dangerous. We are violent when we need to be, but we are not cruel. We do not hurt the innocent. We protect them." He put his hand on shoulder. "Back on Earth, we have an old saying, 'No man left behind.' It means that we do not abandon people who need us. It does not matter if they are family or friends or complete strangers. If someone is in trouble and we can help, we help." Reached up and touched his face. It was a gesture of deep gratitude, something normally reserved only for close family. "Captain Cole," said softly, "you and your crew have given us our lives back. I do not know how we can ever repay you." Smiled. "You do not have to repay us, Captain. Just take care of your people. Get them to their new home. Live good lives and raise your children in peace. That is all the payment we need." He turned and walked back toward the airlock. Behind him, 1,000 watched the human captain leave. And for the first time in their lives, they understood that we're not just warriors. They were guardians. 3 days later, the USS Valor limped into Union Station with the gentle Dawn following close behind. Both ships were barely holding together. The Valor's hull was covered in scorch marks and temporary patches. Her engines made strange noises that made Chief Reeves wince every time he heard them. The gentle Dawn looked even worse, with entire sections sealed off and emergency lights blinking everywhere. But every single refugee had survived, all 12,000 of them. Not one life had been lost since the Terran ship arrived. The docking bay of station was packed with beings from dozens of species, had come to welcome their rescued brothers and sisters. Officials stood in formal robes, their faces unreadable. Meridian representatives watched from the upper balconies. Even a few had shown up to see the humans who had done what no one else would do. Commander Hayes stood at the front of the crowd, waiting as the Valor's airlock opened with a hiss of escaping air. Captain Cole was the first to step out. He looked tired. There were dark circles under his eyes and his uniform was dirty and wrinkled. Behind him came Commander, Lieutenant James Park, Dr. Amy, and the rest of his senior officers. They all looked exhausted but proud. The crowd fell silent as walked down the ramp. He could feel thousands of eyes watching him. Some of those eyes held fear. Some held curiosity. A few held something that might have been gratitude. Stepped forward to meet him. Her face was hard to read. As a Union commander, she had duties and rules to follow. What the Valor had done was technically unauthorized. They had engaged in combat without Union approval. They had risked an international incident with the Captain Cole said formally. Your actions were unauthorized. You engaged in combat without Union approval. You potentially created a diplomatic problem with the Confederation. Straightened his back and met her eyes. Yes, ma'am, I did. Held his gaze for a long moment. Then something in her face softened. Her official expression cracked, and what was underneath was pure, honest emotion. You also saved 12,000 lives, she said, her voice wavering slightly. 12,000 people who would be dead right now if you had not come. On behalf of the Galactic Union, I thank you. She extended her hand. It was a human gesture, something she had clearly researched before this meeting. Shook it firmly. Behind, the crowd began to applaud. At first, it was just a few people. Then more joined in. Within seconds, the entire docking bay was filled with the sound of clapping hands and stamping feet and cheering voices. Captain pushed through the crowd with tears streaming down his old face. He walked straight to and embraced him in the way, pressing their foreheads together. Thank you, whispered. Thank you for everything. Patted the old captain's back gently. Take care of your people. They are counting on you. The celebration continued for hours. Refugees lined up to shake hands with the human crew members. Children who had been terrified of 3 days ago now ran between the legs of the Valor's sailors, laughing and playing. Found herself surrounded by a group of mothers who wanted to thank her personally. They pressed small gifts into her hands, tokens of appreciation from their culture. One of them was a small carved figure, clearly made by the hands of a child. My daughter made this for you, the mother said. She is the little girl you carried. She has talked about nothing else since that day. She says she wants to be a Terran when she grows up. Laughed and felt tears pricking at her eyes. Tell her she can be anything she wants, and tell her I will keep this forever. Doctor was meeting with the medical teams, sharing information about human medical techniques. Lieutenant Park was giving a tour of the Valor to a group of young males who could not stop asking questions about the ship's weapons. Even Chief Reeves was surrounded by admirers. A group of engineers from several different species wanted to know how he had kept the Valor running during the battle. He was happy to tell them, going into great detail about cooling systems and power relays. In the weeks that followed, the story of the USS Valor spread across the galaxy like wildfire. News channels picked it up. Historians recorded it. Politicians debated what it meant. The had answered when no one else would. The predator species from the poison planet had risked everything to save strangers. The warship built for killing had become a rescue vessel. Other species began to look at the Terrans differently. They sent a formal delegation to Earth to establish closer ties. The Trade Council proposed new economic agreements. Even the normally cold and distant Meridians expressed interest in cultural exchanges. For the first time since joining the Galactic Union, the Terran Confederation was not seen as a dangerous unknown. They were seen as something far more valuable. They were seen as friends. On the bridge of the newly repaired USS Valor, Captain Cole sat in his command chair reading a message from Earth. The Confederation Council wanted to honor his crew for their actions. They wanted medals and ceremonies and speeches. Read the message twice, then deleted it. Commander walked over and raised an eyebrow. Was that from command? They want to give us awards, said with a slight smile. I told them no. You told the council no. We did not do this for medals. We did it because it was right. I do not need a piece of metal to prove that. Smiled and shook her head. You are a strange man, Cole. Coming from I will take that as a compliment. Lieutenant Park looked up from his console. Captain, we are receiving a new transmission. It is a distress signal. Leaned forward. From where? A mining colony near the frontier. They are reporting some kind of environmental disaster. Toxic gas leak in their main dome. 2,000 miners are trapped underground. Did not hesitate. Set a course, maximum speed. Sighed. We just got repaired. We were supposed to have 2 weeks of rest. And there are 2,000 people who need help. Smiled at her, and there was warmth in that smile. That is what we do. That is what makes us human. We help people, whether they are refugees or miners or anyone else. If someone needs us and we can get there, we go. He turned to face where stars stretched out into infinity. "Lieutenant Park, how long until we reach the mining colony?" "At maximum speed, 4 hours, sir." "Then let us not waste any time. All hands prepare for departure." The USS Valor's engines roared to life. The ship turned toward the distant stars and jumped into hyperspace, leaving Union Station behind. Commander Hayes watched from the station's observation deck as the Terran ship disappeared into the void. Beside her, Das stood quietly, his large eyes reflecting the stars. "They did not even stop to enjoy the celebration," Das said softly. "They received one distress call and left immediately." Nodded slowly. "That is who they are. They do not wait for orders, they do not calculate risks, they do not ask what is in it for them, they just help." "I always thought would be different." Turned to look at her young officer. "They are different, Das. They are exactly as dangerous as the stories say, but the stories only tell half the truth. Yes, humans can destroy. Yes, they can fight, but they can also love. They can care. They can sacrifice everything for complete strangers." She looked back at the stars, where the Valor had vanished. In a galaxy of billions of species, some will run from danger. Some will hide. Some will calculate the odds and decide the cost is too high. But humans learned something different on their deadly world. They learned that the measure of a species is not what they do when things are easy. It is what they do when everything is against them. She smiled softly. "The galaxy used to ask why we should fear Now I think the question is different. Now the question is, why did we ever think they were something to be feared when they were always something to be grateful for?" Somewhere in the vastness of space, the USS Valor raced toward another crisis, another group of people who needed help. And Captain Cole sat in his chair, surrounded by his crew, doing what humans had always done. Answering the call. Because that is what do. Not because they have to. Not because anyone asks them to. But because in their hearts they know that the universe is cold and dark and dangerous, and the only way to survive is to stand together. The cavalry was always coming. And the cavalry was human.